In 1990, a man finds himself trapped inside a maze-like room, frantically searching every corridor for a way out. Before long, he spots a cable lying on the floor and follows it to a nearby area before blocking the door behind him. He then moves to the center of the space and begins sending a message but receives no response. Without warning, he hears a noise coming from another entrance and watches as a bird is suddenly thrown into the room. Moments later, he steps outside and notices leaves scattered across the floor. Just then, he hears another sound behind him and catches sight of something emerging from the darkness. He immediately runs, eventually reaching another room. Unfortunately, the only door is locked, forcing him to turn back, only to find his pursuer waiting. Years later, Dr. Mary Klein watches as contractors demolish a house. It turns out the home once belonged to her family, where she spent many of her happiest childhood memories. She later shares this story with one of her patients, Clark. Afterward, the two reenact Clark's greatest regret in an effort to help him open up emotionally. Later, at his furniture store, he does his best to play the role of a pirate selling household furniture. However, the chair he's sitting on suddenly breaks, prompting him to ask Bobby to stop recording before telling Catherine to open the store. Not long after, a technician arrives in his office, but fails to find anything wrong with the store's electrical system. So he leads him to the basement and explains that the lights keep flickering. As the technician opens the electrical panel, he notices a switch that shouldn't be there. After flipping it and asking his employees if anything has changed, but nothing seems to happen. Later that night, while he is watching a movie, the TV suddenly shuts off. As he walks over to check it, every light in the room turns on before flickering and going out one by one. Afterward, he goes for a drive while listening to a motivational audio recording, eventually parking outside his ex-wife's house and switching off the headlights. The following night, he is at his store watching a commercial for one of his competitors when the screen suddenly changes to an empty room before the TV abruptly shuts off. At that moment, he notices the lights flickering in the basement. Annoyed, he heads downstairs and starts flipping every switch he can find. Eventually, he flips the strange-looking switch, causing every light to go out. Even after switching it back, the power refuses to return. As he makes his way back upstairs, Clark notices a faint light shining through the wall. When he reaches out to inspect it, he suddenly falls straight through it. Inside, he finds stacks of furniture piled in one area. After taking a quick look around, he passes back through the wall and returns to his store. Curious, Clark cautiously ventures back into the mysterious place. Before long, he comes across a stop sign with its lettering reversed. Further ahead, he spots another room. Along the way, he notices a dead bird, and upon entering, he discovers another vast maze-like chamber filled with chairs scattered in every direction. Making his way to an intersection, Clark notices a silhouette and calls out to it. As he gets closer, he realizes it's only a display board. He then follows the cable connected to it inside, but the door is locked. There, he notices something trapped beneath the floor and pulls on the wall until it slides open. Hidden inside is a bag containing several floppy disks and an identification badge. Without hesitation, he crawls through the opening. Inside, he finds a pair of shoes and a chair fused to the floor. He also notices a hole in the ground, but it's blocked by another chair. Just then, he hears a noise coming from the entrance and goes to investigate. Out of nowhere, someone hurls the display board. Panicking, he immediately rushes to a small door in the corner, frantically tries every doorknob, and finally manages to escape. A moment later, he finds himself back at the same reversed stop sign from earlier. He quickly rushes toward the place where he first entered. However, before leaving, Clark turns back to grab a chair and carries it through the wall into his store. He then sits there in stunned disbelief, trying to process everything that has just happened. Unknown to him, someone has been watching his every move through a surveillance monitor the entire time. The next day, he visits Dr. Mary Klein looking visibly shaken. Concerned by his appearance, she asks if he's been drinking, but he denies it and explains everything he witnessed in his store the previous night. Naturally, she doesn't believe him. Determined to convince her, he pulls out a map of the strange place and does his best to explain what he found inside, but she remains unconvinced. Left with no other choice, he promises to return with proof before leaving. After Clark walks out, believing her patient may be mentally unstable, carefully waits until he's completely gone. Later that day, he meets with Bobby and Catherine, offering them overtime to help with his investigation. After answering her questions, he asks Bobby to bring a camera. The following day, the trio gathers in the basement of the store, where Clark has already prepared a rope, answering Bobby's question as he records everything. He then stands in front of the section of wall he previously marked with tape and urges them to hurry. At first, both of them think he's lost his mind. That quickly changes when he walks straight through the wall, leaving them completely stunned. Curious, he reaches out and touches the wall himself, struggling to believe what he's seeing. He eventually steps through and finds an enormous space hidden inside, then reassures her that it's safe before she cautiously follows. From there, there, he leads them deeper into the mysterious place. Even so, Catherine suspects he may have somehow drugged them. Despite her doubts, they continue following him until they come across the same reversed stop sign he discovered earlier. Eventually, they reach the last area he explored. He ties a rope around Bobby's waist, securing the other end to a heavy bed behind them before carefully lowering him down a steep passage. As Bobby reaches the bottom, he finds himself in a dimly lit area with clothes scattered across the floor, answering questions about what he sees. Looking up, he notices what appears to be a hallway lined with doors. Just then, the lights flicker, revealing something moving in the darkness. Terrified, Bobby scrambles back up the steep passage and tells them to pull him up immediately. Once he's back, Catherine tries to calm him as he panics. However, before he can untie himself, something suddenly yanks the rope from below. So Clark rushes over to help but can't free him in time as Bobby is slowly dragged back down. Then, the bed is pulled forward, sending them tumbling down as well. As soon as they reach the bottom, Catherine immediately runs after Bobby. With no way back, Clark squeezes through a hole in the wall and follows a narrow cavity into another area. He hurriedly passes through another doorway, where clothes are scattered across the floor, calling out for Catherine as he searches for her. Before long, he hears something following him from behind. With no time to think, he takes a random path, only to emerge at another intersection before entering one of the nearby rooms. Inside, the room is almost completely dark, illuminated only by a Christmas tree in the center while an eerie music box echoes through the silence. As he approaches, someone suddenly switches on a lamp. Immediately, a zombie-like figure lurches toward him, sending him into a panic. He sprints through the room in search of an exit before finally slamming a door shut behind him. Beyond the door, he finds a massive bathroom with a swimming pool. Continuing onward, he eventually reaches another place with no visible exit. Just then, Catherine's voice echoes from behind one of the walls, desperately begging him to let her in. But when he looks, there's nothing there except a solid wall. At that very moment, someone quietly enters the location and picks up the camera. Meanwhile, she frantically warns him that someone is standing right behind him. At that moment, Mary wakes from a dream about her childhood, where her mother warns her about the outside after catching her trying to open a window completely covered with newspaper. Before waking up, she looks at a paving stone bearing the imprint of her hand from her childhood home. Just then, the phone rings. The answering machine picks it up, and she hears Clark's voice leaving a disturbing message about opening the window. Not long after, she arrives at Clark's furniture store and finds a pile of unopened mail beneath the door. She notices it's unlocked, so she cautiously steps inside, only to find no one around. Before long, she reaches the basement and spots a whiteboard with a map drawn on it, recognizing it as the same one he showed her earlier. Drawn to the wall outlined with tape like a doorway, she notices a fly passing straight through it. Curious, she reaches out, and to her shock, her hand passes through the wall. Hesitant, especially after hearing what sounds like furniture being moved behind her, she eventually gathers the courage to step through to the other side. Stunned, she realizes everything Clark told her was true. She then follows the same path Clark and the others took earlier, until she spots an open space in the distance with piles of furniture stacked inside. A little farther ahead, she enters another room through an open doorway, and notices several chairs seemingly blocking a passage. Slowly making her way inside, she discovers a drawing on the wall. Shortly afterward, she senses someone watching her from behind. To her surprise, it's Clark, though he's acting strangely. Without warning, a noise echoes through the room. He immediately tells her to stay quiet as the lights begin to flicker. The instant they go out, he suddenly grabs her from behind, causing her to lose consciousness. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mary sees her mother before a nurse leads her away. A moment later, the scene shifts to her house where she sits alone in the corner. From there, the room repeatedly changes between its original state and different memories until it eventually becomes completely empty. Shortly afterward, she wakes up to find Clark talking about his experiences before asking where she was and what happened to the people around her. He then reveals that this place remembers everything that has ever happened in the world, including the people who once lived in it. However, the recreations are only slightly imperfect. He continues explaining the place's unique properties as he stabs a knife into the neck of a nearby figure. He then tears off a piece of its flesh, revealing that everything in this place is edible before placing it onto her plate. A little later, he opens a refrigerator. To her horror, she finds the severed head of one of his employees inside before he casually grabs a drink. Mary tries to persuade him to let her go, admitting she was wrong about him. Instead, he starts another therapy session, this time reenacting the day he was forced out of his own house. Then asks a female figure to turn off the lights, but when she doesn't, he does it himself as a figure in a wheelchair turns on a lamp. He then takes the knife from the male figure and begins removing the woman's hair before placing it on her head. He proceeds to recreate the event he regrets most, finally standing up for himself while forcing Mary to play along. Before long, she can't take it anymore and finally tells him the truth. She says that all he's ever done is blame everyone else and make excuses to paint himself as the victim. Hearing this, he asks how he can change, but Mary admits she's given up because there's nothing more she can do for him. Soon after, he confesses that he doesn't want to change or leave this place, so Mary pleads with him to let her go instead. However, as he unties her hands and apologizes, the female figure suddenly sprints toward a corner, desperately trying to escape. Seconds later, they hear something approaching. It turns out Captain Clark is coming. He casually introduces Mary as their therapist. Slowly, he picks Clark up, then bites him on the neck while she watches in horror. Seizing the opportunity, she quietly slips out of the house and searches for a way out. However, she soon discovers the door is locked, forcing her to enter another house as Captain Clark draws closer. Inside, she finds countless passageways and follows the one that seems most promising. She then races upstairs, hearing him getting closer with every step, until she reaches a room packed with sofas and desperately climbs over them. Unfortunately, she breaks her ankle in the process while her pursuer continues closing the distance. Even so, she pushes herself forward, only to find the next door locked, so she crawls through a pet door and narrowly escapes before he can grab her. Mary then looks around and realizes she's standing at the edge of a seemingly bottomless chasm surrounded by cutaway buildings. Carefully, she makes her way to a staircase leading upward just before Captain Clark emerges behind her. At the top, she finds herself inside a replica of Clark's furniture store. In the center stands the same display board, connected to countless wires and surrounded by several compressed air tanks. She heads for the exit, only to discover that a wall is blocking the way. Moments later, Captain Clark arrives. She slowly backs away, grabbing a coat rack to use as a weapon. Without realizing it, she bumps into some furniture behind her. As Captain Clark closes in, she knocks him down. Trying to get away, she accidentally crashes into the display board, activating a button that releases gas from the compressed air tanks as a surveillance camera records everything. Just then, she notices a gap in a nearby wall and immediately rushes toward it, but the gas quickly begins taking effect, causing her to lose consciousness. When she wakes up, Captain Clark is already hovering over her, trying to devour her. Struggling to fight back, she grabs the paving stone from her childhood home and repeatedly smashes it against his head until she finally breaks free. She then rushes toward the opening in the wall. Luckily, he can't pass through it and can only stretch out his hand in a desperate attempt to grab her, allowing her to escape. Suddenly, a scientist wearing a hazmat suit immediately sprays her with gas. The others panic in confusion after witnessing someone emerge from the mysterious place. Soon after, she is taken into a room filled with researchers eager to question her. Not long after, she is then transported to another facility. Along the way, she catches a glimpse of Captain Clark lying on an operating table as he's being examined. Before long, she's inside a room where a scientist enters, introduces himself, and begins asking numerous questions, including how she came through the furniture store after recognizing Clark's shop from one of its advertisements. He then explains who they are and how they first discovered the place, revealing that he had entered it himself years earlier. Hoping to learn more, he asks Mary to describe everything she experienced inside. As they continue talking, somewhere within that mysterious place, replicas begin appearing once again, including Mary's childhood home that had already been demolished, her current house, an electrical pole covered with missing posters for Catherine and Bobby, and even their neighborhood. Elsewhere, another Dr. Mary Klein appears.